Hey internet, and welcome to episode 3 of my self-help series. This episode I wanted to talk about toxic relationships, mainly romantic ones, not so much friends. If you haven't already watched my introduction video to this series, I will try and remember to link it in the description below. But pretty much I'm on a self-help journey and I thought that I'd make a video series documenting things that I want to improve in my life and giving tips on how you can and just sharing my experiences, I guess. And that introduction video just gives you a brief idea of why I'm doing it and what it's going to cover and stuff like that. So I really wanted to do one on toxic relationships because I think these days the whole dating world and just being single in today's day and age is so horrible. Like, I have had some awful experiences and I know people have had it way worse than me. Like, there's some horror stories out there and it's just so hard to, like, how do you even meet people these days if you're not on Tinder? You know what I mean? And then the people on Tinder are awful. Not everyone, but most people. I just wanted to do a video on basically saying, like, when to cut people off, how to spot toxic people, what a healthy relationship should be, and just some tips of things to remember. Firstly, a very brief dating history of mine. When I left school, I was in a serious relationship. I just touched my boob instead of my finger. We basically moved in together and we'd only been together 6 months, which I would not recommend, especially when you're so young. And really quickly, just a tip on moving in together. Do not move in with someone if you know, like, be honest with yourself. Do you argue a lot? And if you're in a place with that relationship where you're bickering all the time and, like, you're already having a bit of a bad time and there's been some questionable arguments, like red flags, do not move in with them. Like, I did this, like, I'm pretty sure the night before we decided to move in together, we had a huge fight over the stupidest thing. He made me feel so bad about myself and I should have just been like, fuck that. Like, you don't necessarily have to break up with them, but don't move in with them. Anyway, that relationship, needless to say, was pretty horrible. We weren't good for each other and it was nasty. After that, I briefly dated, I'd say more of like little flings. Then I had booked a Kentucky, so, like, obviously, you know, crazy stuff happens on Kentuckys. If you don't know what a Kentucky is, you pick a trip and they take you around on a big coach, like a big bus, and you travel, like, I did Europe and it was 45 days. It's like a huge party bus, like, you just drink, go out, there's like a huge group of people, everyone mingles and you just become like a really tight-knit family and you travel wherever you are together. So amazing. I will also link a blog post I did about Kentucky in the description, because if you don't know anything about it or if you want to know more about it, it's really quite insightful, if I do say so myself. But anyway, typical me going off topic. Before I went on the Kentucky, I did have a brief thing with this guy that worked in the same center and I really liked him. I don't know why. He just would always come in and we'd chat and I really liked him. So I kind of boldened up a bit and just asked for his number one day, and he was really weird where he just messed me around, strung me along, would say, like, let's hang out, and then bail last minute with stupid excuses. So that was my first disappointing fuckboy experience. Then I went on Kentucky, and actually a guy I met on Kentucky I ended up dating quite seriously. We had a really nice relationship and that lasted for about a year, and again we lived together. I didn't make the same mistake again, it's all good. We lived together because we were living in England and wanting to, like, work the winter and then go traveling again, so obviously we wanted to be together. Long story short though, that didn't work out. Then I had another relationship that I would say was toxic. Which brings me to my first segment, let's say, how to spot toxic people. The first one is, if they're flaky or if they bail a lot, then that's not cool. Like, you want someone who's reliable, you want someone who is gonna make an effort to see you. Obviously some people have good reasons if they need to bail. Like, if you're seeing this amazing guy and you've just started seeing him and he has to bail on a date, but it's like, oh my god, I'm so sorry, my dog got hit by a car, or my grandma has just had a heart attack, or, you know, like, a valid reason. They were a bit dramatic, those examples. A bit morbid and a bit dramatic, but you know what I mean. If it's like a pretty, like, reasonable excuse, then this doesn't apply. If someone's making excuses all the time of, like, not quite making a commitment to hang out with you and not wanting to see you all the time, or making plans and then bailing, just be done with it. Like, do not put up with that. They're not into you. And I always go back to that quote, if a man wants to see you, And vice versa, if you're a guy watching and if a girl wants to see you, they will make the effort and they will see you. Like, they're gonna make time to see you. If they want to talk to you, they will make time to text you or call you, or, you know, they're gonna get in contact with you. It takes 2 seconds to send a text, and if they really wanna see you, they'll see you. The second one is if they only want to hang out late at night or like later at night, then I hate to break it to you, but you're a booty call. And that is a sure way to spot a fuckboy. And that's fine if that's all you want. If all you want is like a friends with benefits scenario, then there's no problem going and being someone's booty call or you booty calling someone. But if you really like someone, I would recommend not doing that, because then you're just gonna get hurt. The third one is if the relationship or lack of relationship causes you a lot of stress and anxiety, then it's really not worth it. Like, it shouldn't be causing you anxiety. It shouldn't be stressing you out. Just leave it. Like, literally not worth it. It shouldn't be like that. A healthy relationship shouldn't make you stress like that. Honesty. You want someone to be honest and upfront with you about how they feel or what they want from the relationship. I'm not saying like as soon as you meet someone you need to be like, what are your intentions with me? Because obviously they don't know you, so it's a bit of a tricky one. You've got to gauge it of if you start seeing them and it seems like it's going a nice way, just have the conversation. If they're messing you around and you're seeing them and you really like them, you just need to say to them like, look, what's happening, because I really like you. I don't want to get my feelings hurt. So if you're not into it and this is just fun for you, then like we need to stop. If they're not being honest with you and upfront about how they feel, then you're just causing yourself anxiety and pain. And lastly, if they're mean or manipulative things are harder to spot for sure. I once read this quote about abusive relationships, and I definitely feel like this is such a good analogy, but it's basically, if you put a frog in boiling water, it'll jump straight out. But if you put a frog in warm water and slowly turn the heat up, it will remain in the water until it dies. And that is an abusive relationship, because you don't realize at first that they're a bit of a dick. You kind of fall for them and they show their like nice sides, and then as you're more invested, they start doing little things that are hurtful or are mean or, you know, whatever, manipulative, and then you're already in it, so you're kind of boiling alive, as the analogy. And I know it's a bit dramatic, but I just feel like that's such a good analogy. And if you have ever been in especially an emotionally abusive relationship, then I'm sure you can relate to that quote. But it's when they start to get controlling, or they put you down, or they just say like horrible stuff, getting jealous, things like that. And especially when you're not serious, like if you're not in a relationship, if you're just casually seeing them and they start getting a bit controlling and stuff and they're mean to you, then it's like that's not a nice relationship. That's a toxic relationship. And lastly, I'm just gonna wrap up with some things to remember, some kind of lessons that I've learned, I guess. Some of these seem a bit obvious, but the first one, which I've kind of touched on, is that the effort should be equal. If you're really into someone and if they're really into you, you shouldn't be chasing them all the time, trying to get them to hang out with you, trying to get them to see you, waiting for their texts, waiting for them to call you when they said they would. The effort should be equal. This next one was a recent one that really kind of like hit me, and I think I always knew it, but it's easier said than done when you're actually in it. And that's stay true to you. And they should like you for you. You shouldn't have to put on a thing for them. Recently, I was texting this guy. He was very laid back and chill and like just like go with the flow, and I pretended to be like super chill and go with the flow when like I know that I'm not that person. I'm a stressor and I need a plan. I can be spontaneous, easy. Like if you said to me, let's hang out Tuesday about 7 p.m, that's all I need. I just need, when we're hanging out, you could say to me like, oh, we're gonna go jump out of a plane, and I'd be like, awesome, that's so cool. I don't need to know what we're doing. I just need a set time and a set day that we're hanging out so I can plan my shit around you. And I think that's common courtesy. And I know that's not everybody. Like some people would be super cash if someone just texts them being like, hey, do you wanna come hang out right now? And I can do that. Sometimes it just depends what I'm doing, but I prefer to just know when I'm seeing you. It just puts me a bit at ease, especially if I'm like really into someone and I can know when I'm gonna see them, rather than waiting around for them to text me. So don't change who you are. Don't pretend to be someone you're not. Just be straight up. If I like someone and they're a bit of a fuckboy, I kind of have to say like, look, I like you, and I can't half-ass things, so we're either 100% or we're nothing. The next one is one that I have always been super passionate about and have always tried to live by. The quote is, unless it's mad, passionate, extraordinary love, then don't waste your time There are too many mediocre things in life, and love should never be one of them. And that is just for me, like, it needs to be crazy, swing you off your feet, leg popping love. Otherwise, don't waste your time. Don't settle. You need to feel gooey inside, and you know that obviously doesn't last forever, but there needs to be a spark. Don't settle with someone just because you want a relationship or you think you'll never be able to find anyone else. Don't settle. You should feel at least a spark and at least like you're really into them. The last serious relationship I was in, I'm not even sure you would call it serious because it was just a bit of a shitstorm, but I felt like the spark was there. It was really strong. It was a leg popper, but he was a bit of a dick, and it was a mix between, well, it is mad, passionate, and crazy because it's a bit of a whirlwind. Like, it definitely took me by surprise and swung me off my feet, but it wasn't in a nice way. In a way, it was like a very strong connection, but the relationship was toxic. So I stayed in it because I felt that spark. Really, you've got to look at, like, obviously your well-being as well. Like, are you actually happy? Like, yes, it's a mad, passionate, extraordinary love, but it wasn't like a healthy love. Which brings me to the next point, which is love versus infatuation. And infatuation is an unhealthy, one-sided obsession. And you need to kind of look at it from an outsider perspective and the things that happen and think, is this an infatuation or am I in love? Healthy relationships are supportive, encouraging, you should feel loved, you should feel cared about, and you should feel happy. You should feel happy most of the time. If you're crying every other day, it's not a healthy relationship. Just make sure you're both in it for the right reasons. You should be able to feel if it's right. And I think a lot of people are in denial when it's wrong. Like I said, I stayed in my last relationship for way too long because I thought that spark was so strong, but really, it wasn't a healthy relationship and I was just wasting my time. Anyway, that wraps up this episode. Sorry that I rambled so much again, but you know, I'm finding these videos really fun to film because I have so many ideas, and again, like, I'm just going on this self-help journey. I think I've realized now I need to stop putting up with boys that are just messing me around. I'm such a hopeless romantic and such a fan of love, and I have been disappointed by so many men that I am just done, and I'm only 22, and I feel like there's a lot of disappointment to come still, so I'm not ready for that. I'm not keen for that. But I feel like it's inevitable because on Tinder and the whole like Netflix and chill mentality, it's so hard to meet someone that's genuine and that genuinely likes you. So it is a bit scary, the whole dating thing, but don't give up hope. Make sure you look for the signs, don't settle, make sure you're happy, make sure it's healthy, and don't put up with bullshit. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and make sure you hit the subscribe button. Thank you so much for listening to my rambles and my stories and my tips, and yeah, I hope that you guys got something from this video and that it helped somebody out there. Thank you as always for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!